Superman has long been a favorite American superhero. His ability to bend steel with his bare hands may have patriotic origins because, interestingly, Stalin means steel in Russian. In early Superman comics, Superman was a flat character whose powers allowed him to win black and white conflicts between good and evil. Such flat characterization was a staple in the golden age of comics. However, the development of alternative reality comics has transformed comic book culture because they provide audiences with a multidimensional exploration of superheroes' morality, making them more complex characters than their earlier incarnations. In the specific case of Superman, Red Sun, multidimensional investigation of the morality of a Soviet Superman operates in a nature versus nurture framework, which is carefully crafted by dialogue. Dialogue creates conflict between nature and nurture by developing 3 stages in audience perceptions of Superman's morality: initial fear and tension, restored trust, and finally a looming doubt. Analysis begins with stage 1, in which fear develops because it is not yet known whether Superman's communist upbringing will corrupt his good nature. Millar, the writer, has written for an audience already familiar with the premise of his comic, so he employs dramatic irony and dialogue to build suspense. Readers will hope that the costumed individual is not Superman, but also recognize the inevitability of the predicament, which creates a tension evident in the similarity the speech balloons bear to lightning. Because Superman is a well-known icon, Millar must create a degree of separation between the original Superman and the alternative reality one so that past perceptions do not excessively interfere with the present. Dialogue which highlights the trivial nature of Superman's citizenship achieves this end, and when confronted with such triviality, the audience feels uncomfortable. A marriage between Lois Lane and Lex Luthor shows that something is fundamentally amiss in this universe, but when Lois corrects herself, it seems that she too can perceive the disturbance. Her self-correction, the repetition of her married name, and its bold face only increase the uneasy feeling the audience holds about this new universe, and its meaning for Superman's morality. While previous dialogue has focused on abstract and growing fear of Superman, dialogue shifts to show him becoming a tangible threat, which decreases the legitimacy of claims that he is a moral being. Dialogue acts like a sensationalized news story in order to capture attention and make Superman comparable to a Big Brother figure, once again increasing the disquietude in audience perceptions. Sometimes dialogue matters because of the identity of its speaker more so than what is being said, as when Martha makes her comments on Superman. Martha is the American Superman's mother, so the inclusion of her in a speaking role serves to create a sense of discord in the alternative universe, and again remind the audience to keep their past perceptions from interfering with the present. At this point, Stage 2 dialogue begins to restore the viewer's faith in Superman's innate goodness. The comment of Lois's boss is ironic because American news companies would be fighting for the opportunity to publish the same nationalist stories if Superman were an American citizen, implying that a Soviet Superman, and by extension, his morality, might not be that different from an American one. Besides occurring between characters, a type of dialogue also exists between Superman and the comic reader. When Superman reveals to the reader that he holds himself to high moral standards, he challenges the previous perception of being a threat to American security. The reader does not have to believe Superman, but his calm and self-assured tone makes it difficult not to believe him. Dialogue which decreases America's moral credibility only makes a Soviet Superman look better. Although American Agent Olsen clearly vocalizes doubts about Luthor's government-funded plan, his complaints are an emotionless afterthought, more of a callous attack on Luthor's logic and intellect than an ethical objection to putting American lives in jeopardy. It is difficult to trust someone who has unchecked powers, but the dialogue that Superman uses when greeting an old acquaintance makes him an average human being. He uses a casual greeting and carries a conversation with an excited tone and pace. While unable to see the figures in the panels, one still imagines Superman to be using a universal human symbol of good intent, a smile, as he speaks. Bizarro, a Superman clone, is the only tangible example of an American Superman in this reality, so his dialogue is subtly interpreted by the audience as a reflection on Superman's nature. Because Bizarro chooses to spend his final moments of altruism talking about what a pleasure it is to meet the world, it is implied that Superman's good nature is independent from his nurture, increasing audience trust. Diana's comment may just be a reflection of Superman's appeal to her, but it also has symbolic applications. A human tendency to associate height with positive character traits such as power exists. The rich are part of the upper classes. An upright man is fair and honest. To stand tall is to act with confidence. Diana's line creates a subconscious positive view of Superman in the audience. Superman's dialogue lends him even more integrity in the view of an American audience. Although devoted to the Soviet state, his efforts to keep his personal freedoms out of state control reveal ties to American values. He is so pure that he is above a dirty institution, politics. When discussing his principles, his tone is determined and final, which gives him a strong, attractive character. Dialogue turns perceptions to their third and final stage, doubt of Superman's character. This doubt is not concrete, but rather a barely conscious suggestion. For instance, when Wonder Woman's mother discusses Stalin's crimes openly, the audience must wonder why Superman chooses to ally himself with a man whose abuses of human rights are public knowledge. Although literally referring to Stalin's death, dialogue also refers to the death of a Superman who was once adamantly apolitical, foreshadowing Superman's willingness to fill the leftover power vacuum despite holding anti-political principles. His willingness to compromise his own moral standards makes him an untrustworthy figure to the critical eye of the viewer. Due to the building doubt, Superman's good intentions are not a sufficient justification for his rise to power. The audience knows that having good intentions is not equivalent to being an effective leader or avoiding the authoritarian abuses of his predecessor, so Superman's failure to address these issues erodes his character. At best, he is naive. At the worst, power has already begun its consumption of him. Dialogue has created a constantly developing narrative of Superman's morality, which shifts audience perceptions from fear and tension to restored trust and finally a looming doubt. Overall, nature has won over nurture because dialogue shows that Superman, even as a Soviet citizen, will retain his inherent goodness. However, this matter is not yet fully settled, as final dialogue implies that Superman may soon lose that goodness as a result of the political system he is a part of. The characterization built by this dialogue makes Superman a much more morally complex icon than his Golden Age counterpart, and is an effective example of how the development of alternative reality comics has transformed comic book culture, enabling the addition of further dimensions to superhero morality.